Okay, and welcome to Lesson 7, Part 2. So if I come along in here, I'm going to first off turn off my onion, right? My onion preview. From here, I want to make sure I'm in the graphic symbol, so I'm still in the graphic, right? So I'm still in my graphic symbol. Flame, graphic symbol, awesome. And I want to select the second keyframe on the flame layer, or frame 6, right? So here's my frame 6. And I want to select the gradient transform tool. All right, so what I've done is I pulled up the gradient tool, and we've kind of messed with this before, but now what you can actually do is you can change the color, right? So I'm going to change my color a little bit right here. Let's see if I can right here. And I always play around the gradient tool. So like I can make it cooler or hotter as an example, and what will happen is not only will it change the shape, it'll animate the color between the two. Oh, look at that. That's so cool, right? So right now, this color is all orange. If I came along here and I chose my gradient transform tool, right? Poof. Wait, there we go. And then what I want to do is I'm going to modify the color to make it super easy to see that I made a change, right? We're going to go down this little red there. Now what happens, ooh, right? So we go here to here, look at that. That's so cool. Go back down the red. Maybe I want it more yellow. I don't want to get like too far in the weeds here, but let's see if I can make it more. We're going to make it solid yellow, right? Whee! So now we're kind of moving between the different colors. You can really see the changes. My flame. That's so funny. Anyway. So you're able to go along and you can actually change the way the colors move from section to section. This next little bit is kind of actually interesting. What I do is I click on a particular element and then I do Windows and I'm going to choose color. Color. That will allow me to change the color to a whole different color palette. Now you'll notice I chose pink in this particular case. Now what happens as I go through, if you look, the fire will transition to actual fire and then pink fire and then back to orange fire. So I've got one where I'm controlling the gradients here, which I showed you earlier, and then I'm actually controlling the color of the fire as it appears here. So if I go back to my scene and I run this, now what happens in my scene is I can see the gradient changes and there's my fire changes. And then once again, and this is the reason we made our graphic symbol, if we come into each one of the graphic symbols and we actually bring this out here, all the bits of fire that come out will make the change, right? Whee! So that's pretty neat. Okay, let me explain some things that I've done so far. What I've done is I've actually went to my text section and I clicked right here on yours. It should look almost like a post-it note. I can double click on that if I want to. And then what I want to choose is I want to choose the type as a mask and I want to push OK. That's going to change the icon to this particular item here. Then I want to choose insert and I want to choose timeline and I want to choose layer, right? And after I insert timeline layer, I'm going to call that the fiery effect. And then I'm actually move that. So originally when I included it looks like this. And then I'm actually going to move that down beneath the text layer. And you'll notice as soon as I move that down below the text mask, it becomes a fiery effect. And the idea behind the text layer, or excuse me, a text mask, is it's going to allow me to use that as a way to filter information that's directly below it. So the way it's going to look is we're going to put a fire effect, but then the text mask above it is going to put the fire effect behind the words on the text line. So this particular line where it says fire effect or fire starter, when I put the fiery effect here, fire starter is going to be the only way you're going to see it, and you're going to be able to see what's behind it. Now, what's important here is that someone has created the fiery effect for us before we've inserted it. Now, from here, what I've done is I've clicked on the fire effect, and I actually want to choose File, Import, Import to Stage. So I do File, Import, import to states. Now, what's very interesting when I did this is if you look at, I'm just going to do import to library as an example. You see this where it had all files? For some reason, mine had moved to one of these options here. Just make sure it says all files if you can't see the items. Now, you could choose Fire, right? So I can put Fire in my library, so because I chose that. And it'll input it into my library, which is perfectly fine. Actually, we're going to cancel, because I have another one already called Fire. But what happened here is it allows me, I'm going to unlock this one, it imported this particular fire here, but because this fire effect is below this mask, when they both lock, you're able to see the effect of, like, you can see the fiery bits below it. So all you can see is the fire behind it. So this so far is what our GIF or image looks like. And then I could come along, and if I want to test that, I can choose my control, and then I can choose test. Right, so this is what I made so far. So far, it's kind of cool. I kind of like it. All right. Now, instead of using a static fire item, I'm actually going to use a gradient pictures behind it, or gradient images behind it, to give the illusion of fire moving. All right, the next thing I do is I actually come along and I deleted the fiery bitmap on my back page. My fiery effect page. Then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do a window, and I want to do colors. So I do window color, and that allows me to create this gradient. So I make sure it's on linear gradient, right? And I can choose a different sort of flow here, right? I'm going to choose my flow. It's going to be that one. And then I'm going to come along and I'm going to click this one, and it's my hexadecimal is going to be FF and 4 zeros. Then I'm going to click this one. That's going to be FFF. C00 is my hexadecimal. And then I'm going to click this one. It's going to be FF0 and then 4 zeros. I'm going to make sure it's this particular gradient. After that's done, I'm going to draw a rectangle, right? So I draw, actually that's known in traditional circles as a square, not a rectangle. So after I choose my square right there, I then am going to choose my gradient transform tool. I'm going to click on my gradient transform tool. I'm going to move it out so it's wider in this particular fashion. And then I'm actually going to take my point right here, and I'm going to move it over here. Now the point behind me doing this is I'm actually going to animate my gradient moving in to give the appearance of fire. Okay, so what I've done is I've inserted a keyframe here, and I've inserted a keyframe here. And what I've done is I've moved my gradient tool. When my gradient tool was set here, it started off as, it started off where the center was here. Then I moved my frame forward. I clicked here. And then if you look now, my center point is right there. But what happens is between this point and this point, I've actually inserted a shape tween. Then what happens between this point and this point, right? So if I click on my gradient layer, it's all the way over here. I've inserted another shape tween. And what happens, it gives the illusion of fire that's moving behind it, right? Okay. So now the way this should look, I've got my, right? So I might have to insert some more if I really wanted to, like if I was going to do that, I might actually have it do 2 or 3 more, okay? But the overall idea, when it's all said and done now, if I come along and I can choose File, Export, Export Animated GIF. File, Export, Export Animated GIF. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save that. And I'm going to call it, that's my GIF. I'm going to put it in 07 start. I'm going to save that. And then what happens is, there we go. And then where's my GIF? Oh, there's, ooh, see? Nifty. It looks a little different than what they had, right? But that's okay. So that's where we're at so far. Let me pause. So I did File, Export, Export Animated GIF, and now it's got me to this particular point. I make sure to click off transparency, so I have my item there, so it's actually where I can see the red. I make sure my presets are set to GIF here, and then in the lower part of the screen, if you can't see, you just choose Save, and I'm going to call it 07 Start Working Copy, and save that. Yep, I do want to replace it. And then now what happens when I pull up this intrepid thing that I've just created, there is my GIF file, and I've officially made a GIF, right? And you'll notice the different changes. You can see all the different gradient colors. You can see how it's kind of flickering back and forth, right? And I've created a GIF. You will create one too. Thank you very much for your time.